Broadcasting to you live from the beautiful Magdalena Beach and Golf Resort. This is the Now Morning Show. My name is Rokas alongside Hans Devines. And joining us this morning, the Secretary of Finance and the Economy and also the candidate going up for Bagatelle Bacolé. Joel Jack, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Welcome to the capital of paradise. Hans, welcome to the capital of paradise. The sun is now peeping out at us, and what a beautiful Friday morning ahead of December the 6th. We are excited in Tobago.
Yeah. So how are you feeling? How's the vibe on the ground for you?
We're roaring and ready to go. You know, I had a spot meeting yesterday. We held meetings culminating on Wednesday evening at Signal Hill, and the feedback has been overwhelming and positive from persons on the ground. And we're looking forward to an overwhelming victory and a mandate coming from the people as we lead Tobago and as we continue to advance this island and to continue the transformation process that we have started over the years.
Right. Now, everyone is talking about building back the economy in terms of Tobago. So let us know, what are some of the plans to build back the economy? Well,
most important, and what we have indicated at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, was that we have to facilitate economic recovery and to instill a greater sense of resilience to withstand further economic shocks. Right. At the onset, from our projections, we had a conservative estimate that the economy will decline by 14.3%. When
That's a conservative estimate?
That was conservative.
Right.
When we compiled the data and recently when we published the data, the economy only declined by 5.3%, buoyed of course by increased government expenditure as we looked at targeted sectors such as construction and other government spending to cushion the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. We saw declines in the tourism sector of approximately 31%, followed by manufacturing and the financial services sector. And as a government and an administration, what we sought to do immediately was to put together a suite of measures to assist the private sector and other sectors during this challenging period. So we provided additional resources through our two flagship programs, the Enterprise Assistance Fund and the Enterprise Assistance Grant programs, to assist entrepreneurs. We obtained $10 million through the credit union facility arranged by the government so that they can lend to both their entrepreneurs and also their members. Additionally, we got $50 million in support from the government for the tourism sector last fiscal. In this fiscal, and we received another $50 million to provide additional support for working capital and other measures for the tourism sector. And this $50 million allocation came about discussions and consultations with the various sectors and all the subsectors within the tourism sector as they articulated their position, and they indicated to us, listen, we are thankful for the initial $50 million injection. However, we need an additional $50 million to assist us with working capital, to cover some of the expenses, and to prepare us to reopen when we open our borders for direct flights to Tobago.
Now, I just want to, I mean, $50 million sounds like a lot of money, right? To the average person watching the show. But I want to break it down so people kind of understand what we're dealing with, right? So when you say $50 million going into the tourism sector, break it down for me and tell me, how much would a hotel get? How much would a bed and breakfast get? You know, how did you divide the money?
Well, and you hit the nail on the head. We had a tiered approach to allocating the funds.
Right.
So the larger properties, they would be allocated the lion's share, followed by the medium type properties, and then the smaller bed and breakfast type properties. And you know, some properties did not take up the challenge to participate. However, the $50 million provision went a long way, as we have seen a number of properties, including some of the larger ones such as Mount Irving, accessing the funding, retooling, others such as Cocoa Reef as well. So we utilized that $50 million, and what we did additionally, we provided support to the ancillary sector, separate and apart from the $50 million. So your tour guides, your tour operators, your dive shops, your bars, some of your restaurants, they got a $5 million allocation, followed by a $14 million disbursed through the Enterprise Assistance Fund to other entrepreneurs and private sector stakeholders. So we continue to provide the support because what was recommended to deal with the COVID-19 socioeconomic fallout was targeted and immediate suite of measures to assist the private sector, to assist the vulnerable, and that is what we have done. And we have done so quite successfully, and the data really points to the fact that we are now poised for economic recovery, because our projections for 2021 points to 1.2% growth in GDP, followed by 2% growth in 2002 and 2.9% growth the year after. So we have put the necessary measures in place to facilitate that with a targeted approach and allocating the necessary funding to various sectors.
All right, well, that's what was done. But when we look at the future, what can we look forward to seeing in terms of development?
And that is important because in this uncertain and unpredictable environment, and even as we look towards a positive future, what we are saying is that we have outlined in our medium-term planning framework and outlined in several budget statements our plan and program of work to transform this island. Now, I heard the previous speaker talk about change and transformation, but I want to remind him and to remind the people of Tobago, at every instance when I had to respond in my budget presentation in the House, and last year was also a unique instance because he was the one who led the rebuttal for the other side, and I was like, I'm happy because here they moved away from the leader, put Mr. Augustine to respond to my budget, and then it fell flat because I had to remind him to read the document. Every instance of change using the Singapore model, the Estonia model, leveraging ICT as an enabler for socioeconomic development, we have it all outlined, contained in the, if you go back just to the last budget statement, you would see a transformative approach to advancing and accelerating this island's development. So we have a plan, we are tracking our performance, and just as we outlined in our manifesto, which is a compilation of the medium-term planning framework and the recent budget statement, we have a focused approach to development, innovation, continued transformation, and to accelerate the pace of the island's development. They don't have that. We are the agents of change, and come December the 6th, we will continue. So just as I chided him and the rest of them to read our budget statement, which they did not read, and they're coming to say, well, you know, they don't have a plan, they don't have a manifesto. How are you effecting change without having a solid socioeconomic planning document, which we have and which we have articulated in the past and which we will continue to roll out and execute come December the 6th.
Tell me some of the challenges that you guys have faced and that you can foresee. I mean, we know we're in a pandemic, we know that we're in this hostile environment when it comes to the economy, but tell me some of the challenges that you foresee with your plans.
Well, the greatest challenge that we have faced in terms of implementing the plan or plans has been financing. And as Secretary of Finance and Economy, I was excited this year, looking forward to this year's budget. My budget was approximately $4.7 billion. Right. And why I was optimistic, it was because we had tabled the Tobago Island government bill after years of consultations with the people. We sent that bill down to Parliament, and we placed on record as a party, the Tobago Island Council, our support. We moved a motion at a convention, and nationally it was adopted. So when it got to Parliament, we knew that we had the support of the members of the PNM side, because the minimum allocation for Tobago would be increased from 4.03% minimum. So we are removing the floor, the minimum, the various minimum up from 4.03% to 6.8%. So I was looking forward to $1.4 billion additional dollars. We got no support from the gentleman who sat here previously because they were taking instructions from their partners on the other side of the Parliament, the UNC, and they have scuttled Tobago's development and impeded Tobago's development given the fact that we lost out on an opportunity to obtain an additional $1.4 billion in funding. And that has been our greatest challenge in terms of advancing the island's development. When you look at, I asked for $1.5 billion for the development program, and I got $264 million. And you put that $1.5 billion in context as to what we lost out. The persons who are seeking employment, the engineers would have had to engage to assist us in executing all our infrastructure development program. The technical people would have had to hire as we expand and build out additional units to assist us in improving governance. And, you know, I think all of Tobago, just as his leader took responsibility for scuttling Sandals, that Sandals project, where all the farmers in Tobago lost out, where all the persons who are in the creative industry lost out, where persons who were seeking employment lost out. So again, we have been losing. We're seeing that domino effect with the actions and machinations of the leader of the PDP impeding this island's development. And I again warn Tobagonians, please do not take any chances come December the 6th. Come out, don't say PNM win already, as we did the last time in January. Come out in your numbers and send a clear signal. Give us an overwhelming mandate as we continue to advance this island's development.
Okay, now there's been a big question from many of our interviewees over the past 2 days about victimization. People being victimized because of their political positions. What do you say to that?
But you know, and let's look at me for example. When I came into office, when I ran for politics, we have had persons who are employed in the assembly, stood on a political platform, campaign against the PNM, cuss us, say all manner of evil wrongfully against us. The morning after the election, they threw off their political clothes, put on their professional shirts, and they went right back to work. So this talk about victimization, as the records will reflect, we in Tobago, as PNM, we understand that persons might have different views, but we are one Tobago, we are all Tobagonians, and our fight is to advance and develop this place. However, look at the leadership qualities of the leader on the other side. Look at what he did to PSA workers. And I want to remind persons, every vote you're thinking about casting for the persons on the other side is a vote endorsing that kind of leadership quality. And
right.
that is what we need now.
I want to go down that road because that's for the platform as far as I'm concerned. This morning I want to find out what you guys are doing. I'm not interested in them. We spoke to them already. They say what they have to say. I want to find out what you guys are doing because let's get specifically to your district of Bagatelle-Bacolé. What do the people on the ground want? What are they saying that they want from the PNM, from you?
They continue to articulate and to advance the position in terms of job creation and youth employment, and we continue to work with them. I've set up a system in my electoral district, as I have done over the past 8 years, ensuring that we have an employment database, that we refer people and we recommend them for jobs both in the private sector. So that will continue. Additionally, training and certification is fairly important as we target those persons coming out of post-secondary education without the requisite training, certification to qualify them for careers, and we would be dealing with that. Additionally, a number of them are interested in entrepreneurship, and I have been providing the necessary support and assistance for them to obtain grant funding through the Enterprise Assistance Fund and grant programs, having entrepreneurial fairs as well as career day fairs to guide them and to channel their energies and creativities into various spheres. So persons who are interested in agriculture, we provide the necessary support. And as an assembly, we have indicated that and provided the necessary incentives during the pandemic to accelerate and increase agricultural production. We have also focused on young people, and we launched recently a $100,000 grant for the agricultural sector so that farmers can retool and equip, and we are seeing the corresponding increase in agricultural output over time.
Right. Are you familiar with the Land License Act?
Yes.
Tell the people who may not know about it, tell them what it is, because one of the things that the president of the business chamber was saying is that, you know, that's one of the hindrances, especially when it comes to things like agriculture and investment.
No, well, in terms of investment in the tourism sector, the Land License Act itself is not the challenge. The challenge is the protracted period of time that it takes to get the license completed. In other jurisdictions, the time is fairly shortened. However, to have it completed, it's a protracted process. And what I have done, I have worked with the Minister of Finance to shorten the process. What it requires is to engage additional technical staff and legal persons, and they need to expand the unit within the Solicitor General office. So we're working to treat with that, and we have seen the times reduce, and we are working both from the office of the Chief Secretary and the Ministry of Finance together with the Ministry of Finance to treat with this. However, we have already gone out and indicated that Tobago is open for business. We have our flagship Cove Eco-Industrial and Business Park that is set up and geared towards attracting foreign direct investment. We have recently reduced the rates at Cove, and we are already inundated with applications. At a recent meeting with the Chief Secretary, we're indicating, Chief Secretary, we need additional space, because once these applications are put through, we'll need additional space. Persons are looking at various renewable energy, agriculture, and we will be setting up a Tier 3 data center at Cove. And that will be sort of the catalyst as part of our focus on ICT and leveraging ICT as an enabler for socioeconomic development and activity here in Tobago. And we are setting up Tobago as a model. You know, when I hear persons talk about, I mean, it's all contained in previous budget statements that I have articulated, and I smile, because if you're calling for something, you have to be objective while being critical, while advancing your position. So we have laid out solid plans, they are in train, and we are the agents of change and transformation, as we have done in Tobago since 2001 to now. And that change will continue come December the 6th.
Out of time. Thank you very much for speaking with us, Mr. Jack, candidate for Bagatelle Bacolet and the current Secretary of the Division of Finance and the Economy.
Thank you for having me.
You all are right here on the Now Morning Show. We are here in Tobago, Magdalena Grand
Beautiful Tobago
Beach and Golf Resort. We'll be right back.